If she is unable to be alone for extended periods of time, she is not the type of woman you should be with. According to my understanding and the understanding of other males, this is frequently related with women who have borderline personality disorder, BPD, women who have had trauma in their life, and narcissistic women, though not always. MGTOW red flags are discussed in today's video. The emphasis is placed on the fact that the woman must not be left alone. The person on the other side is typically an attention junkie as well as a one who lacks confidence in their own opinions. Although this is something that can apply to both men and women, I'm going to focus my discussion today on this particular topic. It's important to stress that women are not the cause of the symptoms. When you have pneumonia or the flu, for example, the only reason these conditions are so unpleasant is because of the symptoms. The presence of certain symptoms is what defines influenza as the flu. As there is no such thing as pneumonia unless the lungs are filled with water, there is nothing wrong with you if you do not have a fever and you do not feel sick. The same is true for our life, just as it is with pneumonia. Having a disease but not displaying any of the symptoms often associated with it is not an extremely serious condition. When viewed through the perspective of MGTOW, women are viewed as something terrible, not because of who they are, but because of the negative consequences they cause. This is the reason why we need to look at themes like this one, and the reason why we address women and female nature in MGTOW is not because of the soul, but rather because of the symptoms that women have frequently brought into our lives. Some people believe that the primary function of MGTOW is to serve women, who they refer to as women. It is a significant matter to consider, and the primary concentration should be on ourselves and the choices that we make for ourselves in order to neutralize and deal with the problems in our environment that have the potential to impede our progress in life. It is very relevant now because there are more external threats than there have ever been before to men. In particular, before we were operating in a tribal or medieval or pre-industrial society, and the external threats were many, which did fuel us towards invention, but they were not directly targeted at men. They were not specifically aiming for male customers. It was simply a consequence of the environment in which they lived. They were simply placed in a situation in which males were required to interact with them. Whether it was illness, a lack of technology, foreign armies, or anything else, these were characteristics that we had men being the victims of. However, in today's world, we need to be more mindful of things like these red flags in women because we are also being targeted in other areas. This is a telltale sign of a lady who cannot stand to be by herself. I'm only referring about a woman who is incapable of being alone herself. Imagine for a moment that a lady who is dating finds herself in a situation in which her partner has to leave for the weekend on business. I won't be discussing this further. I'm referring to the woman who is currently single as well as the woman who has recently become single. You know, not all of us, including the woman who is simply out there by herself, regardless of whether or not she is dating or whether or not she is dating, is required to have instant and constant sociability. On the other hand, I've observed that the vast majority of women, including the ones that I've dated as well as the ones that many of you guys have dated, do pursue it with a great deal of ferocity. They do this on a far higher level than men do. This is a telltale sign of a lady who cannot stand to be by herself. I'm only referring about a woman who is incapable of being alone herself. Imagine for a moment that a lady who is dating finds herself in a situation in which her partner has to leave for the weekend on business. I won't be discussing this further. I'm referring to the woman who is currently single as well as the woman who has recently become single. You know, not all of us, including the woman who is simply out there by herself, regardless of whether or not she is dating or whether or not she is dating, is required to have instant and constant sociability. On the other hand, I've observed that the vast majority of women, including the ones that I've dated as well as the ones that many of you guys have dated, do pursue it with a great deal of ferocity. They do this on a far higher level than men do, which is why you often find women associated with all of their girlfriends after a breakup or after a divorce. But you typically see guys commit suicide or sink into despair after such an event. According to what I heard the other night, the guy took his own life, but 2 weeks later, the girl who was now single was with a new man, just with a drop of a hat after a suicide. Additionally, my ex-girlfriend was with a new guy within a week of breaking up with me after we had been together for a year and a half, and the next girl that I was with had one lined up the whole time and turned on to a new guy right away. That is not unheard of, and in fact, it is fairly typical, particularly in this day and age of orbiters. Nonetheless, I would want to address today the broad general concept of the female, who can't be alone at any level. So the first thing is, and this is the most concerning thing about this topic, she doesn't want to be alone because she doesn't see it as a time to improve herself. And when I look at alone time today, when I think of being alone, that is the time that I truly recharge. She doesn't want to be alone because she doesn't see it as a time to improve herself. If I have a lot going on in my day that is causing me stress, and if I have a lot of things to accomplish, the only time I am able to be creative is when I am alone myself. When I'm by myself, not only am I able to get the most work done, but I'm also able to concentrate better and get the best night's sleep. I rejuvenate in a different way when I'm around other people, but I can't take as much of it as I can when I'm by myself. I have a desire for solitude, and I consider the time I spend alone to be of the utmost importance. This is especially true now since I work 6 days a week and have to devote 1 or 2 days of my weekend to nothing more than answering emails and getting caught up on things. I consider time spent by myself to be one of the most valuable resources, and as a result, I do everything in my power to preserve it. This is due to the fact that I have an interest that is driven from within me, and that interest is in working out simply because it gives me the satisfaction of accomplishing something and it helps me feel better about myself. I would take up hobbies to improve my skills with the possibility of making money and accruing more freedom in the future, just like I know you guys do too. But for many women, these things do not matter to them, and if you bring that up to them, they don't grasp it to the level that you would naturally think they would as a man. I know you guys do this too. When they are younger in their lives, when their beauty is still in bloom, all of their eggs are placed in one basket, and that basket is their beauty. However, what are they going to do when they are not out on the town with their friends or in a relationship or simply hanging out or watching Netflix? All of their eggs are in one basket, and the only basket that contains their eggs is their beauty. There is only so much you can do for your body in a single day, and a lot of women don't even do that much. They attribute both their youth and their ability to stay youthful to their rapid metabolisms. Because if a woman doesn't have an immediate social outlet and doesn't have hobbies, something I've talked about in the past, she doesn't value free time to the same extent that you value it, you can only work on your diet and your makeup for so long. This is because she doesn't place the same importance on free time as you do. Because she does not have any goals for herself that are apart from the relationships, she does not place any value on it. Free time equals goals, free time equals progress for many men. She can't be alone because she doesn't see the value in that free time, so she will despise it. Free time is equivalent to rest, and it is so important when we get it. However, if she doesn't value it, it means that she doesn't value these other things. Free time equals rest, and it is so important when we get it. We are MGTOW men. It's conceivable that we spend more time than most guys do thinking of our own ideas and existing in our own little worlds by ourselves. Despite this, we place a high value on our spare time. When I have some spare time, which is often I think as I am aware that I do. When that happens, I am finally able to find the joy I've been looking for, as well as explore my side enterprises and build a brighter future for myself. And this is not a woman that you are going to want to date and associate with, because if she doesn't perceive free time to be used to benefit herself, you're going to clash, and she's going to clash going forward with any person that doesn't have the same paradigm that she does. And this is not a woman that you are going to want to date and associate with, because if she doesn't perceive free time to be used to benefit herself, you're going to clash, and she's going to clash with you. In addition to this, you are going to hold a grudge towards her, and you are going to take on the characteristics of the people who you spend the most time with, which will be her. You are going to make more sacrifices, and she's going to be a slacker, and she is actually going to criticize you for looking to do anything with your free time to follow what you're passionate about and pursue something other than her. Because it has the potential to make her feel insecure and lead her to believe that you will move on from her and become more marketable to other women. This is due to the fact that she may believe that it will make you move past her. Because there is a secret bell curve that is unique to each woman in this position in which they want their partner to be marketable sexually. And because the curve varies depending on the circumstances, because it gives the impression that he is more accomplished socially while at the same time preventing him from becoming too self-reliant and preventing him from exerting an excessive amount of effort independently of her. During my time as a college student, I made it a habit to take a trip every other weekend. Every once in a while, I'd be gone for between 2 and 3 days. In addition to this, I remember working nonstop for a period of 12 days, sometimes for as few as 10 to 12 hours at a stretch, and feeling like I was constantly on edge. It's a dumb fear, but it was one of the things that caused tension in our relationship. I was worried about whether or not she would actually be where I thought she would be, or whether or not she would be hanging out with people I didn't want her to hang out with. I shouldn't have had it, but it is often a normal concern as well. Nevertheless, that does not imply it is healthy, and it is also an indicator of other concerns that she has not yet handled. I shouldn't have had it, but this was due to the fact that she did not have any aspirations that I was really aware of that were not related to her profession or her schooling outside of the workplace. It was a social activity, but it had nothing to do with improving oneself or participating in one's hobbies. Simply put, this is a girlfriend who does not share your goal of bettering yourself in some way, whether it is to become more knowledgeable about a particular subject or to learn to play the guitar. It will cause a schism, it will result in anger, and it will prevent you from moving forward. In addition, if you feel the need to take a weekend off, catch up on work that you've fallen behind on, or complete additional work that you've been assigned at your job, or if you want to, go on a weekend trip with some friends, go hunting or go hiking somewhere without her, you can expect backlash and you won't be able to enjoy the same level of unrestricted freedom. The next thing is the other main thing. And although I don't want to give the impression that I am an expert on borderline personality disorder, BPD, and an expert in analyzing it and recognizing its signs, I do have some experience dealing with it, and I am familiar with the internet and a variety of articles. Despite the fact that you can't always trust what has been shown to show a correlation between borderline personalities, traumatic experiences, anxiety, and being alone, and despite the fact that I'm not an expert, I've noticed that women who have borderline traits or who have experienced traumatic events in the past tend to be extremely promiscuous. They are always looking for someone to affirm them. Whether it's through sex or whether it's just through attention, male or female, it's often done at a healthy level, and you're never going to find these women alone. On the other hand, you are going to find them very up to date on the most recent developments on social media. They watch a significant amount of low-quality television and Netflix, and the vast majority of them have Tinder profiles, are highly active sexually on Snapchat, and also have their own Instagram accounts, which they utilize to an exceptionally high degree. And a significant part of the problem here is an unreasonable fear of being abandoned, which could be attributed to daddy issues. To put it another way, sexual abuse that occurred in the past or just general anxiety, as what a lot of studies have shown. Whether it was caused by the environment in which they were raised or by events that took place in their lives, genes may be handed down from generation to generation. And I've had a lengthy conversation with a guy who has been put through it because of a girl who was unable to be alone. And if she is alone and he isn't around, it is immediately assumed that he is a cheater, unreliable, out with other women, and not at work or at the gym or other places that he has said he has gone to. And this is despite the fact that he has said he has gone to all of those places. It is a trend and an issue that has been confronted by a significant number of males in today's society, particularly in light of the growing incidence of generalized anxiety disorders among both women and men, and it is imperative that we be aware of these signs, so that you don't wind up witnessing a family member or a friend be pulled into being her pawn because she has her own issues that she needs to sort out that are distinct from you, and so that you don't make the same mistakes that I have done. Since this is a possibility, let's examine the question. Why in the end is this something that should be considered harmful to a man? This is cool because it is related to the video that I made a couple of months ago about women that don't have hobbies. What that means and why is such a big red flag for a man in a relationship. And if she can't spend time alone for one thing, that indicates a person is not likely mature. This is why it is cool, because it is related to the video that I made about women that don't have hobbies. What that means and why is such a big red flag. It also shows that a woman is not self-motivated and that she craves attention, which is a strong indicator of both of those traits. The frightening part is that you are going to spend the majority of your time by alone, and these issues are not insignificant minor issues that can be disregarded. This is absolutely detrimental because your time is precious, and when you go your own way, you have an extra thirst to maximize the amount of time that you need in a day, not just to function and take care of certain things that you need to get done to reach your status quo, even just to work out and consume a certain type of media or amount of media or anything else to keep your mind fresh. So don't brush these things aside. Make a note of these warning signs.